How's it going, everybody? Have you ever wanted to dry your own lumber, but you wanted to do it in a fast, cheap way? Today I'm going to show you how to build one of these. This is a solar kiln, and the way this operates is the sun is going to come down, it's going to go into the box, sort of like a greenhouse, and then it's going to hold that temperature, and then the idea is that we can control that temperature to dry out the lumber very accurately and precisely. Today I'm going to go over the process of how to build one of these, and I'm also going to explain the process of how to build an indoor version if that's what you prefer. So, let's get started. The first thing you're going to want to do is make yourself a nice level surface to work off of. Anytime you're drying lumber, the top pieces of your wood are going to be pressing down on the bottom pieces, causing them to conform to whatever this first shape is. The easiest way to make this flat if you're working with rocks like I am is to just keep moving the boards left and right until all of them are the same height. If you're not working with rocks, you can just as easily use shims. This entire box only uses 4 sheets of this 1/2-inch insulation foam. Now the thicker you buy this stuff, the easier it's going to be to work with, but the thinner you buy it, the cheaper it is. I bought these 1/2-inch sheets at Lowe's for about $22. Is it my imagination, or did these used to cost $10? I don't really buy these very often, so I thought it was really interesting that they were a lot more expensive than I remember them being. And then it's time to stack up all of the material, making sure to put stickers between all of the boards. Here I'm drying some black walnut, a little bit of cherry, and a very little bit of applewood that I got from the milling day video. It was my original intention to try and add a dehumidifier to this box because I needed something to pull all of the humidity out of the box, and it turns out there's a couple of ways of doing this. If you decided that you wanted to ditch the solar aspect of this box, you could actually put something like this inside your garage, and all you would have to do is add a dehumidifier, because the dehumidifier does 3 things. Not only does it pull the humidity outside of the box, but it also acts as your heat source. Believe it or not, these things kick out a ton of heat. And not only that, but the fan in there is so strong that you wouldn't even need to add an auxiliary fan. However, because I'm trying to build one outside and I already have a heat source, which is the sun, I don't need all the extra heat that comes out of this dehumidifier, and it was actually causing issues after I installed it. It was kicking out so much heat, it was causing the box to get way too hot. The process of building the box itself is incredibly straightforward. I know a lot of people like to build wooden frames to tape around, but you really don't need that if you don't want to. Once the entire box is taped together, it's surprisingly rigid. I just went around on all sides and made sure to put a couple of layers of tape on each of the corners. And it was a very windy day, so I had Lucy out there helping me hold things in place so it didn't blow away. And I guess this is her summer attire. I don't know why she likes to wear jackets in the heat, but she says it's comfortable, so I don't judge. I even asked her if she wanted to change for the video, and she said no, she's good. Lucy, you are hilarious. Now I ended up using 3 different kinds of tape on this box because I wasn't sure what was going to work the best, but by far the best tape that I was able to use. Why are you dancing? The tape I ended up deciding was the best was this waterproof Gorilla Tape. It stuck so well. I'm going to be putting a link in the description to this specific tape because, in my opinion, it is the best. I needed to cut this box down to its final size to fit what was already inside it. I just wrapped a piece of tape around as reference and I cut to that. I didn't need this top scrap piece, so Lucy decided she wanted to play with it. Now, because I'm trying to make this into a solar kiln, I needed to find some way of letting the sunlight in but not letting the heat out, so it needed some sort of insulation property, and what I came across was this dual-wall polycarbonate. It cost me about $80 down at Lowe's. I have since learned that some people have used things like saran wrap to make this work, and apparently that works, but I don't know, I wouldn't recommend it. So in all honesty, I was really worried that this thing was going to start looking kind of trashy on my property once everything was together, but if it's all clean, taped together like this, it doesn't look too bad. And it's not a permanent structure anyway, so I'm not too worried. What I needed to do next was cut a hole for the power cable. This is definitely something you could do before you put the box together if you want, but I wasn't 100% sure where I wanted it run until the box was together, so I just did it at this point.
Well, that was surprisingly easy.
You can really cut these any shape or size you want, but you want to make sure that there's enough airflow in a box like this so that the air can be pumped out properly. After one full day of running this kiln this way, it was incredibly obvious that the dehumidifier needed to go. I had no idea that it was going to kick out that much heat and mess with my temperatures that much, so instead I ended up using this vent fan instead. This is another one of those items I picked up from Amazon, and it runs about $90, and the reason it's more expensive than a normal fan is because of how much volume of air it pumps out. It works incredibly quickly. There's definitely a bunch of different ways to install this, but I decided just to put a couple of pieces of wood on the outside and screw it into place. This exhaust system also comes with this really cool thermostat controller, and you can set the temperature on that to anything you want, and as soon as it gets to a temperature above that, it will exhaust all of the air out. So it not only pumps all of the humidity out of the box, but it also keeps your temperature for you. Now that everything is hooked up properly, it's time to tape the box back together. The biggest reason the box needs these vent holes is because you don't want the fan to collapse the box under that negative pressure. But the other reason is because you need some way of measuring the wood. I decided to pick up this Pinless moisture meter off of Amazon. This cost about $50, but this is so much better than the pinned version. Not only is it considered more accurate, but you don't have to mar the wood when you're measuring the moisture content. Thank you all so much for watching. If you have any questions about the solar kiln or about anything else you see me build, go ahead and put that down in the comments. I'd love to answer any questions that you have. And if you'd like to see how I milled up all of this material with my homemade mill, I'll go ahead and link that at the end. Anyway, thank you all for watching. Catch y'all next time.